Hello, I'm Ms. Lumley of Finextra, and today I'm speaking to Isabel Schmidt of Deutsche Bank, and we're going to talk about innovation. Now, when I often talk to transaction banking customers, they often mention the execution, the accurate execution of transactions and high level of service as being a higher priority than innovative solutions. So where's the balance? Is customer service more important than innovation?
So I think we need to look at the whole picture. And innovation is generally driven by what clients need. So clearly, customer service and transaction accuracy are key requirements from a customer's perspective, but how do we actually get there? And I think that's where really innovation comes in. So if we think back 10, 15 years ago, transaction accuracy and STP processing were really key themes. And innovation came in terms of automatic repair, in terms of artificial intelligence, learning to do some steps that we as bankers were doing manually to automate those and become more accurate and faster. So I think that's where some of the connectivity is. Another example would be in the customer service space. Deutsche Bank pioneered 15 years ago a customer service tool on the internet. So we were giving clients access online to their customer service files, to transaction records, and so on. And that clearly was improving the customer service experience. So that's where the connectivity really lies. Now, if we fast forward this into 2014, technology has changed a lot over the last 15 years, right? So we all have tablets and smartphones, and some of our thinking over the last few years has been how can that technology be leveraged in the customer service space, for example. And you would think, that there is a connectivity there and we could do something with it. But the work that we've done in that particular area with clients show that they're really not all that interested in that particular medium, because the users in a customer's organization that would use an inquiry function, for example, aren't using that technology to perform their jobs. So we're staying in the same medium. I think where innovation comes in that space is much more subtly and in an incremental manner. So for example, we have taken our customer service, our online customer service platform, integrated into Autobahn and completely redesigned that tool, which is now called Cash Inquiry. And what we have done in that process is really worked with clients to understand very precisely what their actual workflows are, in which sequence they're doing certain steps. And that has allowed us to change the layout of screens, the workflows of the various functions of the tool. And so the innovation there is probably not as spectacular or as visible overall in terms of marketing, for example, but for the individual user, I think that innovation is much more palpable and has a direct impact on how they experience their work with Deutsche Bank. So that's more on the customer service and the transaction accuracy side. Another big driver clearly for innovation is all the developments that we are going through from a regulatory space perspective.
You mentioned regulation, so I want to know, how is Deutsche Bank really innovating to respond to this type of change?
There's a new area that's emerging, which is very interesting to me, and we're probably going to see continued development, and that's in the area of intraday liquidity. So the developments that we see coming out of our regulators in Europe, but also in the United States, followed also by some financial market infrastructures, will lead us to see, or have led us to see, demands from customers around intraday liquidity, around provision of intraday liquidity, and commitments of intraday liquidity. So I think that's also going to spark a few new products, and is also going to have us think about a much better connectivity between payments, intraday liquidity management, and collateral management. So I think that's an area where we will see some developments. In parallel, though, what we have done at Deutsche Bank over the last 18 months, we've spent a lot of time looking at how we actually process payments, in particular with respect to intraday liquidity. Traditionally, the payment space has been building on the first in, first out method, And if you think about it from a liquidity management or an intraday liquidity management perspective and an efficiency perspective, that's probably not the best way of doing things. First payment come in, first payment goes out, but that liquidity that was used by this payment could be more effectively recycled by another transaction. So we've spent a lot of time as I said, in the last 18 months, looking at these particular flows, understanding our customers' payment flows, understanding flows coming back from the market infrastructures, and developing an algorithm that looks at that particular area in a much more effective way, so that as an end result, we could make either the same amount of payments with less liquidity, or more payments with the same amount of liquidity. And if you put that in the context of what I said earlier around commitments, intraday commitments, there's a direct financial impact there to the client. If customers ask for a commitment, generally they have to pay for that. However, if we can also at the same time manage that intraday liquidity more effectively, the cost for the customer will come down, and that's clearly a desirable outcome for our clients.
So the evolution of the renminbi has been a big topic. I've been hearing from a lot of people, especially in relation to its growth next to the euro and the US dollar. So my question really is, how do these macroeconomic events really shape product development?
Sure. So macroeconomic trends are really important in our product development thinking and in our discipline, because they drive what clients expect from us and what they need to be able to handle their own business. That's absolutely key. So it's important to stay on top of what's happening in the world and understanding the drivers as they shape the futures of our customers' business. So in the specific case of renminbi, I would say overall, we still have to acknowledge that renminbi is a relatively small currency in absolute numbers. If we look at the SWIFT renminbi tracking numbers, renminbi represents about less than 2% of the overall payment volume in the world, compared to over 70% for euros and dollars. So in absolute terms, it's not a massive amount of business that's being transacted in renminbi at the moment. However, if we look back over the last 4 years, we also have to acknowledge that growth has taken place at a phenomenal speed, and we have never witnessed that before. Also, China is the biggest trading partner for almost every country in the world. China represents about 12% of the overall world trade. And the other development that we have seen taking place over the last 4 years is that there has been a redenomination of Chinese trade into renminbi from primarily dollars, but also euros. So now there's a significant proportion of the Chinese trade that's being settled in renminbi. So I would say what we see is clearly the takeoff or the potential takeoff. And because of the size of the Chinese market, it's something that we need to look at very carefully, because our clients look at this very carefully. Mm-hmm. Talking about the clients, we also need to recognize that there's a very big variety and the level of sophistication and the level of interest of customers in renminbi. Some customers want to be at the forefront and understand what's happening in that space and really want to lead. Other clients prefer to be more careful, and generally we also have to recognize that clients follow the pace of their own customer and their client base. So those needs are reflected in how our own customers expect to see their business development and being supported by Deutsche Bank. So this is clearly reflected in the overall product range that we have to put in place to be able to serve that variety of customer and that range of customers. So they're going to be very sophisticated solutions that are delivered in country, from clearing solutions, financing, trade financing solutions, solutions that leverage the offshore capabilities in Hong Kong or the emerging offshore centers in Frankfurt or potentially in London. And then there will be clients whose needs are also probably better served by maybe a cross-currency type of solution, which is a much more traditional product, but for those customers, that may just be the right thing. So from a product development perspective, I think it's really key to understand that entire variety and to have the right product for each of those customers, and that's really important. That's now the example of the renminbi, but I would say that's probably true for any other major development where we have to kind of identify what are the trends, how do our clients respond to those trends, what are their specific needs, and then craft the product suite according to those needs.
Isabel, thank you very much.
Thank you.